All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into a really tragic event,
Okay.
the 2016 Berlin Christmas market attack.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be using excerpts from the attack's Wikipedia page
Okay.
to guide us through this. This attack uh, initially took the lives of 12 people at the
Wow.
market, and another victim actually succumbed to injuries years later, bringing the total to 13.
Oh, wow.
Um, and this makes this attack Germany's deadliest Islamist terrorist attack to date.
Yeah, and it really shows, I mean, I think
Yeah.
how vulnerable public spaces can be,
Right.
even during like
Yeah.
times of celebration.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a happy time.
Exactly.
And to have something like that happen is yeah.
It really shook Germany and had ripple effects across Europe.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So to really understand the full impact, let's go back to that day, December 19th, 2016,
Okay.
and picture this. The Breitscheidplatz Christmas market is bustling with people. You can smell glühwein, roasted almonds, all under the shadow of that, iconic
Yeah.
Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church.
It's a beautiful scene.
Right.
Very festive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then completely out of nowhere, a large semi-trailer truck, we know now it was a Scania R450,
Okay.
it plows through the market, leaving a 50-meter trail of destruction.
Oh my gosh.
And, just imagine
Yeah.
the force of that truck tearing through wooden stalls, crowds of people,
Yeah. Think of all the
broken bones, the impact trauma,
Yeah.
people getting crushed by debris.
Yeah, it's amazing that it was even stopped. And it was eventually stopped by its automatic braking system.
Oh, wow.
So you can imagine without that technology.
Yeah, it could have been much worse.
Oh, it would have been way
Right.
worse. 56 people were injured,
Oh, my God.
many of them seriously.
Yeah. That's awful.
And you mentioned earlier how this event really had a long-lasting impact.
One of the first responders who was there that night
Right.
suffered a really serious head injury
Oh, wow.
during the attack and tragically passed away in 2021
Yeah.
due to complications from that injury.
Wow. So years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it
It
really
goes to show
Yeah.
that the effects are long-lasting, not just physical, but emotional and mental. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
And the victims of this attack, they came from all walks of life.
Yeah.
Different nationalities. Among the 13 victims were 8 Germans, as well as individuals from the Czech Republic, Italy, Israel, Poland, and Ukraine.
It really is a reminder that these acts of terror don't discriminate.
Yeah?
It impacts everybody and creates this shared sense of, grief and loss.
Yeah. A global impact for sure. So now let's get into the investigation following the attack, because this is where it gets
Yeah.
really complex.
Okay.
So initial focus was on the truck driver, Łukasz Urban.
Okay.
He was a Polish man who was delivering steel beams to Berlin.
And his story actually initially led investigators down a false path.
Yeah.
It was kind of a dramatic twist in the early stages of the investigation.
Okay.
So his company lost contact with him in the afternoon of the attack, and when they looked at the GPS data, they saw that the truck was being driven very erratically.
Oh, wow.
When they found him in the passenger seat,
Yeah.
he had a gunshot wound,
Oh, gosh.
and he had been stabbed.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't clear immediately if this was a result of the crash itself.
Yeah, because you think, well, maybe he got ejected or,
Right.
I mean, the force of it.
But the presence of those injuries, especially the gunshot wound,
Yeah.
that pointed to something more sinister
Mm-hmm.
than a simple traffic accident.
Right.
So police, at first, they theorized that Urban had actually fought back against the attacker,
Okay.
that maybe he even grabbed the wheel
Oh, wow.
and forced the truck to stop, kind of sacrificing himself to save others.
Yeah. What a story that would have been.
It was a compelling narrative,
Yeah.
a very heroic story.
Mm.
But as the investigation progressed, that theory unraveled.
Okay.
Forensic evidence revealed that Urban had actually been shot and stabbed hours before the attack even happened.
Wow.
And the fact that the truck was eventually stopped, we know now, by its automatic braking system,
Mm.
and that no weapons were found at the scene, this further debunked that initial theory.
Okay, so then they were looking for someone who was armed
Yeah.
and potentially still out there.
Yes.
Okay.
So the investigation took a sharp turn. Now, they weren't just looking for the person who caused the crash.
Right.
They were looking for an armed and dangerous perpetrator.
Yeah.
And this brings us to one of the most controversial aspects of this case,
Okay.
the arrest of Navid B.
Right.
So there was immense pressure of course,
Yeah.
to find the person responsible. And within hours, police had arrested Navid B., a Pakistani asylum seeker, near the Victory Column.
Mm-hmm.
And they stormed his refugee camp accommodation to apprehend him.
Wow, so they really thought they had their guy.
They thought they had him.
Yeah.
But you can understand the urgency,
Oh, yeah.
especially
Yes, it is.
in the aftermath of such a horrific event.
Right, you have to act quickly.
Right.
But it sounds like maybe they didn't have all the pieces in place yet.
Yeah. This turned out to be a significant misstep in the investigation.
Okay.
And doubts about his involvement emerged almost immediately.
So what happened?
Well, they found no signs of a struggle on his person. And, critically, no gunshot residue was found.
Oh, wow.
And on top of that, forensics completely ruled him out.
So they had the wrong guy.
The wrong guy. And he was released the next day.
Oh, man.
So you can imagine this added to the already heightened tension and uncertainty surrounding this case.
Yeah, people are on edge
Oh, yeah.
wanting answers, and to have this happen
Absolutely.
must have been, a lot of confusion.
It also raised a lot of questions about the authorities' handling of the case.
Right.
Were they jumping to conclusions under pressure?
Yeah, exactly. You have to
Yeah.
be thorough. Right, so here we are, a devastating attack, a tragic misconception about the truck driver's role,
Right.
a false lead that put an innocent man in the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
What happened next?
Well, this is where things take a crucial turn
Okay.
with the discovery of a key piece of evidence
Right.
that really changed the direction of the whole manhunt.
Okay, so we left off with the investigation kind of hitting a dead end.
Yeah.
What was this crucial piece of evidence?
So, hidden under the driver's seat of the truck,
Okay.
investigators found a deportation notice
Mhm.
belonging to Anis Amri, a Tunisian man.
Okay.
And this discovery
Yeah.
completely shifted the focus of the whole investigation.
So this Omri, was he the actual perpetrator?
Yes, he was. Amri was a failed asylum seeker
Right.
with known links to extremist networks.
Mm-hmm.
So finding that deportation notice, it was like hitting the jackpot
Right.
for investigators.
Yeah.
But it also raised some serious questions.
Yeah, like the fact that he was already on the authorities' radar.
Exactly.
That must have added another layer of complexity to the case.
Absolutely, yeah. It brings up issues of intelligence gathering, risk assessment.
Right.
You know, if they knew about him, why wasn't he apprehended
Yeah.
before the attack?
Right.
These are, really big questions
Yeah.
that German authorities had to grapple with
Yeah.
in the aftermath.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So what happened to Emery after the attack? He didn't just hang around Berlin, did he?
No, he didn't.
Okay.
He essentially became a fugitive, fleeing Germany and embarking on this kind of desperate journey across Europe.
Oh, wow.
He slipped through the Netherlands, Belgium,
Mhm.
France,
Wow.
ultimately ending up in Italy.
It sounds like something out of a spy thriller or something.
Yeah.
Is he trying to get somewhere specific or just kind of running blind?
It's not entirely clear what his end goal was, but his journey came to an abrupt end in Milan.
Okay.
Italian police stopped him for a routine ID check, and during that encounter, everything changed.
A routine check.
Yeah.
Wow. Talk about a fateful coincidence.
It certainly was.
Yeah.
As it turned out, Amri was armed.
Mm-hmm.
He pulled out a gun and shot an officer in the shoulder, triggering a shootout
No way.
that ultimately ended with Amri being killed.
So the manhunt was over,
Yeah.
but I imagine the impact of this whole ordeal
Right.
was far from over.
You're absolutely right. The repercussions went beyond capturing Amri.
Yeah.
For starters, ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack,
Right.
placing it within the context of this global terror threat that they posed at the time.
Yeah, it's easy to forget now, but
Yeah.
back then,
Yeah.
ISIS was really dominating the headlines
Oh, yeah.
with their, brutal tactics
Mm-hmm.
and claims of responsibility for attacks all over the world.
Yeah, it was a scary time.
It was. And within Germany, I mean, the political fallout was significant, right?
Absolutely.
There was intense criticism directed at Chancellor Angela Merkel and her, I guess, relatively open
Yeah.
refugee policy.
Right.
Some people argued that this policy had made the country more vulnerable to this kind of attack.
Right, that it was too lax.
Yeah. So this attack kind of became a focal point in the ongoing debate about immigration and security, not just in Germany, but in many parts of Europe, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, these are conversations that were happening all over.
Right. But in the midst of all of this political turmoil and these security concerns, there are also these really heartwarming displays of solidarity.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, it's important to remember that
Yeah.
even in these darkest times,
Yeah.
they're still good.
There is.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So people around the world mourned the victims. World leaders offered their condolences.
Yeah.
And there were, these remarkable acts of kindness.
Do you have any specific examples that come to mind?
Yeah, absolutely. One that really stands out is this GoFundMe campaign started by a fellow truck driver
Oh, wow.
for the family of Łukasz Urban,
Oh, wow.
the Polish driver.
Yeah. Who tragically lost his life. And it raised, a significant amount of money, really demonstrating the compassion, the empathy that can emerge even in the darkest times.
It's a reminder that even in the face of these horrific events, humanity can still shine through.
Yeah.
But of course, the attack also prompted some more tangible changes, especially when it came to security measures in Germany.
Right.
So what happened there?
Well, the government implemented a number of reforms aimed at, preventing future attacks.
Okay.
They tightened deportation procedures, increased surveillance of individuals considered potential threats,
Right.
and even placed restrictions on the movement of some people deemed high risk.
So there's a definite shift towards a more proactive, and some might say stricter, approach to security.
Exactly. Trying to be more
Yeah.
preventative rather than reactive. There was also this crackdown on certain groups,
Right.
most notably this Salafist mosque in Berlin.
That Emery had frequented.
Okay.
Salafism is an ultra-conservative movement within Islam.
Okay.
And, authorities saw that mosque as a potential breeding ground for extremism.
So we've gone from this chaos of the attack itself to this continent-wide manhunt. And now we're seeing this lasting impact on Germany's security policies.
Yeah.
It's a lot to process.
It is. And there's still one more layer to consider.
Okay.
Even though the perpetrator was brought down, so to speak, this deep dive into the Berlin attack really leaves us with some thought-provoking questions.
Okay. You mentioned there's one more layer to consider. What kind of questions are we left with after unpacking all of this?
Well, knowing that Anis Amri was already on the authorities' radar before the attack,
Right.
it really raises these difficult questions about whether this tragedy could have been prevented.
Yeah.
And it forces us to think about this delicate balance between security and individual liberties. It's a tough one, right? On the one hand, you want to do everything you can to prevent this kind of horrific event.
Exactly.
But you don't want to create a society where people are, unjustly targeted or their freedoms are curtailed.
Exactly. And in Amri's case, there were these legal complexities that actually prevented authorities from taking more decisive action, even though they had suspicions about him.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder, what level of evidence should be required to justify, detaining someone who's considered a potential threat.
Yeah, it's a question that has no easy answers, especially in a democratic society that values individual rights. And I imagine this attack sparked a lot of debate in Germany about how to strike that balance.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, this is a debate that continues to this day, not just in Germany, but globally.
Yeah.
How much surveillance is acceptable in the name of security? How do we ensure that increased security measures don't infringe on basic freedoms? These are really complex issues that societies around the world are grappling with.
Yeah, it's definitely a complex issue with no easy answers.
Yeah.
But this deep dive has really shed light on those complexities. I think it's easy to get caught up in the immediate details of an event like this, but stepping back and looking at the broader implications is so crucial.
Yeah, and I encourage you, as you continue to learn about the 2016 Berlin attack and other similar events, to keep these broader questions in mind. How can we as a society, effectively protect ourselves from those who intend to cause harm, while also safeguarding the values and freedoms that define us?
It's a challenge, but it's one that deserves our ongoing attention and critical thinking.
Well, this deep dive has certainly given me a lot to think about. Thanks for guiding us through it.
It's been my pleasure. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the 2016 Berlin Christmas market attack. We hope you found it informative, thought-provoking, and we'll be back soon with another fascinating story. Until then, Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep those brain cells firing.